Welcome to LHS Live, every Wednesday morning from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Where you'll hear from new guests every week on relevant topics. Community-based, student-driven. And now, your host, Joe Roberts.
Welcome, Panther Nation, to another episode of LHS Live, where we have interesting guests, interesting topics, and a fairly uninteresting host. And I'm the fairly uninteresting host, Joe Roberts. Mr. Tanis Grimes, LHS Senior, with us today, and super important that you are with us today because you have something really cool coming up this weekend on Saturday. The LHS Fine Arts Department is doing a production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and you are the man.
Yes, sir. I am Scrooge himself.
The man, Ebenezer Scrooge. You're going to hate him. You're going to love him. He's going to make you laugh, make you cry, hopefully not make you want your money back, right?
Ooh, please. That's the goal.
Okay, so Tanis, you are a senior here at Liberty High School. It feels like you've been all over the map for the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
You were here, then you were in Louisiana. Is that how they say it, Louisiana?
That's how my family pronounces it, Louisiana.
Louisiana, okay. And then you came back here to make one last run before you head off into the wayward yonder of graduation and adulthood, right?
Yes, sir. My dad actually, whenever he found out that we were having to move somewhere else, he gave me the choice of where to spend my last year of high school. And I was like, because of COVID and moving, and I wasn't able to take part in a theater program in Louisiana, and theater was my main direction in coming back.
So it wasn't me.
You were a itty bitty part of it.
Okay, all right. It's too late. You've already hurt my feelings. Well, whatever caused you to come back, I'm really happy that you're back. And you came back, and I don't know that you were expecting me to throw you into such a heavy role, right?
No, this is a big step from where I've been in the past, and I don't know. It's definitely weighed down on me a bit, but I'm excited that the performance is coming up, and I hope I can make some people in the audience happy.
So this is probably the most meaty role that you've had, right?
Yes, and that's not down to. It's just down to we've had some really good actors in the program over the past couple of years, and so it's nice to kind of see what came before me and now be. Just to drop a name, Nolan Myers, he was fantastic, and just to kind of be where he was it's a really weird feeling.
It's always fun when you get to follow people, and you know, in the coaching world and kind of other places, you never want to be the person that follows the legend. You want to be the person that follows the follower of the legend, right? But with the theater program, so many talented people in here, and there's no opportunity to really not follow a legend, right? So what's it like when you are preparing to step into someone else's shoes?
It's on the acting of the character.
Right, sure.
It's really tough, especially with A Christmas Carol. Whenever we were doing auditions, I looked through all the characters, and obviously everybody wants the main part, but to me it came down to his conversion between being this kind of this really disgruntled old man to kind of wanting to feel more than that. And not to get too personal about it, but over the last year and a half, I've had a similar change to that myself, and it's been nice to kind of immortalize that in this year's performance. And so I've been looking at every Christmas Carol movie I can, kind of picking pieces up and seeing how this actor did it. And even yesterday, I saw a new performance, and I was like, I really might add that in. It comes down to these are some really great, because A Christmas Carol gets performed every 10 years or so. Like a new movie comes along every 10 years or so. And so you have so much to choose from. And it's just about finding what you like and making it your own. And you've definitely gone the route of telling me to pick what I think is best for the character, and I think that's really helped me along.
So don't you find it super frustrating? And I know you're going to say yes because I've heard you intimate this before, but when you ask me for a note or for a direction, don't I always ask you a question in return?
Yeah, and I mean, it makes it's a good way to teach, but it's frustrating on the student to figure it out. And you lead your questions in sort of a way that kind of gives me the answer, but I think it's the answer that I wanted all along that your question is based off of. So it is frustrating, but I've just now started to learn to deal with it.
Now, see, that's good. It only took you, what, 5 years now?
Better late than never.
Better late than never. One of the cool things as actors, and I don't ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do because I love getting on stage as well. And you mentioned this earlier. You watch these other performances and you look at how someone else has played a role, and you don't want to imitate someone, right? You don't want to do that exact thing. You said you like to pick, and so what does that mean?
Like, to use the Patrick Stewart version of Christmas Carol, there was a really nice scene where he did this thing where after he wakes up in bed, he realizes that the curtains are real and it was all just a dream, but he's going to move forward. And he does this thing where he reaches out and he looks at his hands and he kind of touches them and freaks out and realizes that he's coming to real. And I saw that and went, I would have never thought to do that. And it's just a process of coming through that. Because with a script, especially in A Christmas Carol, there's a lot less stage directions than I thought for such a grand piece. I kind of felt like I needed more to go off of. And that's not on the script itself. That's just on me wanting to put on a good show and overcomplicating it in my head and needing one route to take. And so it's nice to have such great actors like Patrick Stewart and even a bit of Jim Carrey's accents and stuff. It's nice to go through these and see what came before.
So yeah, I bet if I asked James and Brandy, they would probably say you're a master at overcomplicating things.
It is. Oh, it's a part of growing up.
All right, so you are on stage for this show's probably going to be about an hour long, and you're on stage for about an hour long, right?
I go off one time, and it's to get changed into my pajamas, basically.
And then you're only off for maybe a minute or two, and then you're right back on.
Yeah.
So how is it knowing that, in a lot of shows, you get out there and you deliver your lines, and then you have a chance to get off stage and kind of recollect, and oh man, I wish I hadn't done that. I know I need to do this, and then you can maybe take a gander at some lines if there's a piece. This you can't, right?
No, and especially for such a dialogue-heavy production, it's. I think it works better for me instead of going off and getting a piece of the script. Sorry about that, viewers at home. Because being on stage the entire time helps me. If I get into character, I can stick to it, and I just never leave it. Because if you have a script in front of you, you're trying to scramble around and try and memorize that one line that you're missing, that you're gonna miss. But if you're in the character, you can kind of just keep going with it, especially if there's a tone that you're going with. And I've realized this over the past couple of days of doing run-throughs. If there's a tone that I start with, it might be very different from a tone that I've had in the past, and it's just that it's an entirely different performance. And so getting to stay in character the entire way through helps me with that tone because I can keep it and I can just stick to it. This is the character I've chosen. I'm not going to go off stage and think of how I'm going to do this next scene because it's got to come naturally.
So how do you keep your performance fresh but also predictable for the other actors on the stage? That was a curveball right
yeah,
there.
that is a curveball. Because I was thinking about this yesterday. You missed it because you were at home. Whenever we did our performance, our run through yesterday, it was very much everybody was really into it, and the whole cast just got really into it, and I decided to do some extra stuff, and because of course with a substitute, like you have some people in the back, and being more into the character helps even the people sitting in the audience go, he's taking it seriously, we should follow along too. And being able to throw a curveball at the other actors per se, it's not typically about how much I'm acting, it's about how much they can act with me. I feel it's about the chemistry between the actors and their ability to bounce off each other. And luckily I've known most of the people in this group for years and years. And so it is nice to like have Sage up there with me, and I do something different and she reacts greatly like with it. And it's just a nice feeling to go like after the performance, it's nice to go, you knew exactly what I was doing even though we had never rehearsed that.
So that great chemistry between yourself and the other cast members, acting is reacting, but it's also getting into that character, right? Do you find that after doing that, because I know this has happened to me, when you play a major character, and sometimes even a minor character, once you're done, it takes you a moment to kind of divest yourself of that character and become you again?
That is a tricky situation, especially with this role, considering Scrooge does go through such a wildly different character in the end. It's definitely a moment where I have to, again, yesterday, I was speaking entirely in accent the entire class. And even after we were done doing the run-through, I kept going with it, and I couldn't stop it. Like somebody was doing a costume thing, or I asked somebody about my shirt or something, and I had said the word drapes. I had asked them to bring me my drapes, and it's just there are parts of it that stick with you, but luckily, as I spoke earlier, Scrooge is kind of just the way he goes through the story is very personal to me. So I was able. It's kind of like my performance of Scrooge is my performance of Scrooge.
Right.
Like we are one.
And it should be, right? It should. That's the best ones. Okay, I think maybe, are we ready, Mr. Cicada, for our little plug, our little infomercial for the performance on Saturday? We're going to take a quick 30-second, and then we'll be right back with this interview.
What is the heart of a person? And is it too late to change a person's heart? Friendless, cheerless, joyless, Ebenezer Scrooge is about to come face to face with these very questions. London town, on a long ago Christmas Eve. Join us this hour and judge for yourself where Ebenezer's heart truly lies. And now, Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol.
Welcome back to LHS Live. I'm Joe Roberts, and I'm here with Tanis Grimes, star of the upcoming A Christmas Carol, put on by the LHS Fine Arts Department. Man, you have some interesting times ahead of you. And if you could not see that, I'm so blind, I'd have had to pause that little commercial there. 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So 2 opportunities to come see you on stage. Now, I don't know, I've only done it a couple of times where you do a multi-show in a single day. Have you ever done more than one show in a day?
Not at all.
Okay, so
I mean, a little bit different from doing skits and like
right.
Cub Scouts, but not something this grand twice in a day.
So how are you trying to get yourself mentally ready for that?
It's going to be very difficult, especially since, as I spoke earlier, just whenever you go off stage to like look at a line or something like that, your tone for the rest of it changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really worried that if my parents are going to be seeing both shows, I'm worried that after the performance they'll tell me it was drastically different. They'll
Mm-hmm.
tell me that I had performed it a different way, and I do want to keep that freshness that you stated earlier, but I also still want to deliver the same quality of a show.
Right.
And we're going to be starting pretty early on a Saturday standards, and
Well, you are a teen, so I guess 11 a.m.
Yeah.
is pretty early for you.
and starting that early and going all the way across the day, devoting an entire day to these two performances, I just hope my the exhaustion that I'm going to have isn't going to show through.
Okay. Let's talk about one of the things that really helps me get into character, and I'm almost 100% confident that you're going to have the same reaction here. And I want to see. I should have researched this better, and I knew the name. And now I'm thinking it was Cary Grant that once said he didn't know what he was going to do with his character until he got into the correct shoes. So you got your costumes on Monday. How did that impact your level of, okay, this is something?
Well, for starters, all of us guys in the locker room putting on our costumes, once we got that second layer, just the button-up shirt and the vest, we were all like, why don't we all dress like this all the time? And then we put on the overcoat and then the other button thing, and it just kind of, now we see why we don't dress like this all the time.
Right.
Having like the cane and the top hat in hand really, I mean, it gives me more freedom to move around and do things. The original RoboCop movie, the actor in that movie trained with a professional mime because he wanted to really like have a spry performance. And then on the day of, the RoboCop costume was too tight and he couldn't do all that spry stuff. So he trained for so long in like with the mime, and then he had to completely go back to the drawing board on how to do his character. And luckily it hasn't been a drastic thing as being confined, but wearing all those layers of clothes really gets to you. And wearing a scarf. I haven't worn a scarf in years.
So do you find that the period costume that you're putting on, did that kind of help you okay, this is Ebenezer now. This is not
Right.
Tanis any longer.
Right. It's very different from wearing. Luckily, I dressed for the day. It's very different from wearing.
I'm glad you
my-
dressed for the day also.
It's different from wearing my T-shirt and overshirt Hawaiian outfit. It's a completely different style, and it does do a good bit of helping to get into that character, like doing the accent. And though I'm not entirely too sure on my accent, it does help kind of push forward your mental state that you are no longer entirely yourself.
All right, so this isn't just the Tanis Grimes show, right? There are other people in this production. Let's talk about some of them. You mentioned Sage Drinkard, fellow senior. She's been with the program same amount of time that you have. All-star cast and all these other accolades. What's it like working with an actress of that sort of caliber?
It's crazy seeing where we came from, and she's always been like really good, especially in that middle school performance we did. She was great. And then I left for a year and I came back, and whenever she sits down to sing that song, it's my first time watching that, because originally she didn't want to, but we got her to do it on stage, and my first time watching that was just stunning. Like, she has picked up the abilities to do so much over the years, and I don't know, it's a nice thing to come back and see that other people have grown as well, and just everybody on it. it's a total different state from where I was here 2 years ago to where I am now, and it's like everybody has matured as well.
So we're doing some different things with some of the roles. We've by happenstance and by the fact that I just think it was kind of a different twist on it. We've gender swapped a couple of roles, and we've done some different things. Kennedy Mumfree is going to be Janice Marley, not Jacob Marley. What's it like working with Kennedy and the energy that she brings in?
That energy is certainly a way to describe it. She's really good, and we've had some solo moments where we've been able to work together, and she's able to lean into that and make that gender swapping of the character her own performance, and she's able to bring to that performance a new side of the story that Charles Dickens probably didn't imagine he would tell.
Yeah, right.
And so it's a much different performance than having a Jacob Marley up there, and she totally brings it. She totally brings it as the ghost and the dead partner, where that partner stays in the show is up to how she tells it, and she leans into it into a way to where you can take that route a number of ways. Mm-hmm. You can take the route that they were just business partners, or maybe there was something more, and this is another reason why Scrooge is such a bum.
He's a bitter old fuddy-duddy, right? Yeah. Isn't it fun that as an actor we get to tell a story, and everyone's so familiar with the Christmas Carol, so you want to give that nod to the tradition, but then you want to make it, okay, well, this is different. This is something that I wasn't expecting, but I still like this thing, right? As you've been working with the different actors, and we could spend a whole episode just talking about the 25 plus cast members in this thing.
I mean, if you want me on next week, I'm cool there too.
we could definitely do that. Madison Swanky playing one of the spirits, Tucker Schilling coming in and playing Bob Cratchit, both pretty good. And then Ava Badgett, a young up-and-coming actress, playing not nephew Fred, but niece Frida. What about those three actors?
Swanky, and changing, that was another change that we made, because we have Fezziwig, but then we have the second spirit. And I was just gushing to my dad about how it's such a cool way that we do it, where they kind of swap places, and I have to interact with both of them. It's Swanky, I've known her since middle school too, and she's just as great. And I remember on the first day, she was asking me if I would ask her to change anything about her performance that she did, and I was just, no, keep it like that. And on Tucker Schilling, Tucker's great. Yeah. I've also known Tucker since middle school, and if I didn't have the role, I would ask Tucker to have it. And I think he's a great actor, and he really, the fear that Scrooge gets to strike into him, he plays it so well. But he also plays such a good, loving father, and just a great man in the household. It's great witnessing him do everything. And then
Ava.
Yeah. Ava, she comes on, and it's hard not to smile whenever she's so cheerful, and I have to sit down and kind of get grumpy with her and yell at her to get out of my building. She's great, and it's a really good way of setting the mood for the play, because you have that contrast, and she's able to deliver that cheerfulness that is the contrast to how the rest of the performance is going to go.
So we have a pretty big group of up-and-coming freshman actors and actresses. As a senior, thinking about your legacy moving forward, what is it that you want to leave with the young ones as you're getting ready to ride off into the sunset?
I haven't put too much thought into this, because for things like legacies, you don't want to overthink it, as I do.
Right.
But I remember a couple of years ago, my first year, we had a couple of seniors, but the group was so small, and now we have such a large group. Whenever my first time back seeing you was at a Walmart, and we talked about how the theater has changed, and you said there were 30 plus people, and my jaw just dropped. And I don't know. I just want I want what I want as a senior is to at least make theater enjoyable, and at least be able to joke around with some of these younger people, and just I want them to stick around, because they really are a great cast, and doing our monologues in the beginning of the year and watching them all have their singular piece where they're up by themselves, it just blew me away with how cool, and well, not cool, but how amazing they were, and I had never seen them before. And it's just I just want them to stick around, because that would give you and them a great theater production going forward every year that they're here.
Right. It's one of those situations where you know they've got their driver's license and you've got the keys to the car, and you know at some point you're going to have to hand the keys over, and well, don't wreck the car. And I think you've got some good hands that you're handing the keys over to.
Yeah, they are a wild bunch, but they know what they're doing most of the time.
Well, they're freshmen. They're all right, a couple of last things. We're just about running out of time here. The choir is adding a sort of an element to the production. What's it like being able to kind of take a breather or take a beat with the choir coming on and doing some stuff?
There are definitely some moments where the lights fade on me and it just focuses on the choir, and I can kind of not slouch as much. But there's also moments where they come on and I have to be extra grumpy because Scrooge hates singing in the beginning, at least, and having to hold that posture, having to hold that grumpiness all throughout their wonderful music. Like the group of choir people that they pulled they're fantastic. Getting to hear them over the past couple of days, and I have to pretend to not like it. So it's really, they are a great addition, but they keep my job going much longer.
Right. Okay, last question. Jordan Watts, stage manager. You were on stage with her as an 8th grader, and then she took over as a freshman. She took over that stage manager role. What's it like having someone like that run the show? What kind of peace of mind does that give you?
She gets stuff done, and I don't know when exactly she became it, but she's also become such a big part of the Prancers, and knowing that she can handle all of that all at once, I can ask her for a prop, or I can ask her about something and she can get it done, or she can relate to somebody who can get it done. And knowing that as an actor I can mostly just focus on the acting, and she can take care of a good portion of what is else to come. It's really great knowing that although she may get upset with us at times, she's able to still, have a enjoyable last senior year and just get stuff done and help us put on a show.
Awesome. Saturday, December 11th, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. showtimes. $5 at the door, right? And then we're going to have some other cool things going on. The Choir Booster Club is going to be selling hot chocolate and cookies. There are going to be elves there handing out candy canes. And I have it on special authority that Santa and Mrs. Claus are going to be there for pictures. So this is going to be a whole to-do. The AV department's going to be there with a photo booth, and so we want this to be just a whole thing, right? Super excited to see you on stage, Tanis. I'm excited that you're back. I'm glad that your mom and dad brought you back here, and you didn't, go elsewhere in the area. LHS Live, you can find us every Wednesday from 9:30 to 10. On LHSlive.net. I'm Joe Roberts. I've been here with Tanis Grimes, LHS Senior. We will see you next week.
Thanks for watching every Wednesday morning from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. New guests every week on relevant topics. Community-based. Student-driven. Don't forget to tune in next week for LHS Live.